Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sketching Trees, part 4 of 4. My name is Jason Meyer, and if you've been with me for all of the 3 previous ones, tonight might be a little bit of a surprise for you. It seemed like a lot of discipline and work on the first 3, a lot of almost brain puzzles and logic. And then tonight, what I would like to show you is, with that understanding, how free you can be. Okay, if we have a huge vocabulary, we don't just go around reciting the dictionary, right? But we might pull out the vocabulary occasionally when it's appropriate. Okay, and this is going to be very similar tonight. So what you're going to see is we're going to just try to see it very simply, get a general size and placement. Think about it in 2 dimensions, start to set up the 3 dimensions. We've got connections, light and shadow, and enhancements. All of that's going to kind of get meshed together here, right? It's not going to be so cleanly separated. When we start, generally how I like to work and sketch is to start with something really light where we can barely see it. I've darkened the marks down a little bit more than I usually would, just so you can see it. But at the beginning, be patient if you don't see the marks right away. And then each stage, I'm going to probably go through 3, maybe 4 stages of darker marks. And that is part of my process. You'll notice that any really background marks that we do with that beginning light gray won't get the darker marks as we change the color. And we're going to save the darkest marks for up front in the picture plane. Okay, so you keep your eye on that. All right, so enough of that. Why don't we get started? Because 30 minutes is just not enough as far as I'm concerned. Once I start, I generally don't like to stop. So let's see, we picked oak number 2. So this is the tree that I'm going to be basing this whole drawing off of. But as you can see, I'm going to take the idea of this tree and it'll develop into something quite independent of the rest of this scene. All right, so we'll stick this guy up here in the corner. Get that guy. Bet you we could even, yeah, we could stick him over there. All right, so starting with the dark, or my lightest gray, what I'm really going to do is think about the horizon. So about 2/3 or 2/3 down or 1/3 up. I'm going to have my distant tree line there. So that means everything above that's going to be sky. And then that's going to allow me to find my movement across the canvas, which is going to hold that tree. Okay, like I said, very, very loose and freeing. So just generally thinking size and placement here. This will end up being background trees. maybe something slightly bigger over here to catch the attention. Balance that big tree a little bit. Okay, then I can also think about making this path. Right, I want it on the ground, go from bigger to smaller. There on the back side of this path we'll hit grass that's an upright, end up being a dark. I can't remember if I was able to cover it in this YouTube, but on the course in the school, I spend a decent amount of time talking about movement and the different ways we can get movement. And one of those is simply proportion or size, going from big to small. I think I mentioned last night that the bigger the experience, or the bigger the change, the bigger the experience will be. And just what in the world does that mean? Well, if we say that the tree up front is this big, then look at the tree behind. It's that big. Well, that's quite an experience because it's quite a change. Okay, so it takes a little while to realize that it's not detail that really gives you the power in drawing and painting. Right? But it's giving them a big experience. I have a shadow going across here. So it goes down on the road. Okay, now if that's the movement, we can start by just going across, or since we know which direction this goes, we can even imply that. Start to get straight up here, it's going to start coming back towards us. It's going to come towards us there. That's going to go away from us. I have something here coming away from us. Right, you see how loose that is? I'm going across my movement, indicating the directions. But I don't have to go to the nth degree. I don't have to get it perfect here either. If something's a little bit wrong, I'm going to have a chance to fix it later. Alright, it's really hard to talk and draw at the same time. I'm going to focus on the drawing, but I'll try to at least let you know what's going on. And again, this is my lightest gray here that I'm going to use at this point. Thinking about the leaves on here as if we threw a blanket over them, right? Where would that light hit? And the shadow Send that slightly back. I have to change that one. There we go. So what does this shadow tell us here? Well, it tells us where the light's coming from. Okay, so the reason we do all that understanding and study is so that we just know these things. We just know these things, and we don't have to think about them when it's time to execute. So I'd like to hear, is this what you expected after all that discipline and cylinders and shapes and just how you connect and all of that? I think for students sometimes, or anybody learning art, I know for me, it was a bit confusing. You know, seeing these guys and women be so loose and free, yet when they go to teach or talk about it, really insisting on a discipline that I didn't quite see in their work. All right, how are we doing? All right, 15 minutes. So I guess we better get a little bit darker. Let's work our trees out here a little bit. Okay, and let's see. I think we should have a house here. Maybe behind the house there's a pile of wood. Right, and we wouldn't want to leave this separate. I'd either connect this shape up here or to the trunk of the tree, right? And so that it becomes part of the dark shape. And I think I'll probably end up connecting it to the trunk or the leaves here. It's hard to believe that this is going to turn out to be anything. Be patient, be patient. You know, I have to admit that this makes me a little anxious. I'm just used to working quite a bit slower with a lot more time. And to be under the gun here can be a bit of a challenge. But I know it can also be a bit boring watching this stuff. So let's see if we can't keep it moving along. So the grass in the front, we want that tall enough so that we can get small in the background. And by the way, that this is going to be darker, but it's going to pay off having these different layers underneath. It's It's going to add a richness. Get that road. Winding through there. All right, so that was 45%. So why don't we go down then to 30%. Now let's not hit any of those background trees, but maybe this tree here that's in front of those smallest background trees. Pull that a little bit forward. That house would definitely be forward. Might even let that grass. See, if we did that, then that grass could run through those trees and up to the leaves, and so we wouldn't even have to make those trees that large. Cast shadow getting thrown across the road, our dirt road. Can you see that this is primarily verticals I'm working with? But I don't want to do fence building here. We want something a little more organic. Okay, so let's see. So this is, make that wider. Come up. Okay, and that gets a little straight across there as it just goes up. Got the bend right in there. Just for time, I don't know how much of those bends and things you'll see today. You'll see them implied, but it's something that usually after the work's a little further developed. Again, I want to remember that, you know, our light's coming from here, so we're going to pretend this is a sphere. So then all of that, we can pretend that's a sphere, then all of that will be in shadow. You guys see how I'm using those really basic forms to give me the freedom? Cylinder, there's a cylinder, small cylinders, big cylinder, or spheres. And it looked like Shakti said something about you can have a mood, and you absolutely can have the mood. One of the things I'm going to try to do here is make the grass feel and look different than the tree trunk, and feel and look different than the leaves on the tree, feel and look different than the house. Right? And we can, but we don't have to be uptight about that. But most people want that freedom before they go through the discipline knowing exactly what they're breaking free of. And it really is amazing, even if you never put any of that down on the paper, it informs your decision, your understanding of how that goes through space and how that looks is really changed by all that study. Again, I really don't like going this fast, but I'll do it for you guys. I'll do it just for you. Can't have anybody falling asleep on my watch. We don't want to put the viewer to sleep. Okay. Let's see. How are we doing? Wow, we're down to 9 minutes. Down to 9 minutes. Okay, so if you can't tell, hopefully everybody can tell, it went darker yet again. Again, just thinking about the sphere and a ball and how it would be lit. And then I'm just making marks that are more leaf-like in nature rather than a wall or a tangerine or a peach or something like that. It's the same principle, but the material it's made out of, we want it to be represented as well. Okay, so I'm so glad you guys have stuck around. Usually people are like, I'm out after we have a little discipline, a little, wait, what? This is too much that's too much work. I didn't sign up for that. Come on, guys, come on. You can do a little bit of work. Right? Usually people just aren't willing to do the work if they can't see the promise. If they understand the promise, what I found is they're more than willing to do the work. Right? And so what's the promise? The promise is if you will learn some of this fundamental stuff, spend some time studying your subject matter and figuring these things out, it's going to give you the freedom to be loose like you want to without ruining your drawing or your painting. And like down here, I can put some of that, but then I can keep this dark on the inside. And edges are a big deal too. Let's see. See, that's too much of a line. Too much of a line. I like to skip and make it a little bit more of a stair step than lines, and that's almost always going to be easier. It's going to slow the viewer down a little bit too, the pace, so they're not running down this road at 110 miles an hour. Why don't we have meander like a walk? Well, then that's what that stair stepping will do, is it'll slow that pace down as they go through there. All right, what do we got here? And let's see. You know, one of the ways we can show older, more mature trees is downward growth. Young trees are springing up like that. You're going to see everything's going to be hand up, 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 all that energy. Then what happens as these trees gain wisdom and experience is some of this up stuff begins to turn down. The weight of gravity will get to it. And so you'll have more downward facing things right here, right on that other side over there. So make sure we get a little bit of that in there. All right, time does fly when you're having fun, and it looks like my time is just about up, which is just a crying shame because I'm just now getting comfortable. All right, let's take this big mess out of there. Who left that in there? All right, what if that roof, we're getting some sunlight on it, something like that. Maybe there's a little light hitting some of our trunk down here. Okay, and I think with that, we're going to have to call it a day. Ooh, that doesn't look pretty. That light needs to be smudged a little bit. Too much hard edge. There we go. So some smudging, and I wanted to smudge the edge of my road, those darks in with those grays. I didn't want all that hard edge. I like those darks in there, just kind of grounding that stuff. But let's see if we can't have it melt into the surroundings rather than to be an abrupt change. There we go. All right, soft edges as it turns into shadow. Soft edges it turns into shadow as a form shadow. Same in the leaves. We don't need a ton of hard edges in here. Okay, I'm going to have to stop. I got to stop. I don't want to stop. I'm just getting going. But I hope you see. So there, am I worried that it's not the exact? No. No. I want to create a beautiful drawing. I'm not trying to copy what I'm seeing. I'd actually like what I show the viewer to be more compelling than the photo. Okay, so that's going to take a little artistic touch. All right, before we go, I can't help myself. Let's see. Let's just see how we did this. So we got our movements in there, got the horizon line. right? So it can be a looser, more enjoyable process. I think I find it looser and more enjoyable anyway. Especially knowing that any time I can go in there and really say cylinder, say light and shadow and cast shadow, if things are too fuzzy. I think this was actually one I did earlier today. This is it, because I didn't get light and shadow in the other trees. But a similar idea. I was warming up, and then I guess this is yours here. You got to see two goes at it. And by the way, sometimes it takes 4 or 5 of these before I get an idea of, oh, I could do that, or that would work. So you don't want to wear yourself out with discipline on those 4 or 5, but to be able to do it loosely, with less energy. Okay, there we have it, everybody. Sketching trees, part 4 of 4. Thank you for joining me. Again, if you're interested in a little more or more detail or depth, we'll have the online course up hopefully within the week. I'm really close to finishing it up, but I want to clean a few things up and maybe get a couple other things in there. So we'll see if we can't have that up and running by next week. And until next time, I hope you guys all stay safe and happy and beautiful. And paint, 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 sketch, 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 sketch. The world can use all the beauty we can throw at it. So let's throw a lot of it. All right, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.